Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quartlbaum. Tell Me More exists to help bridge the gap in our intergenerational workplace dynamics and to build better leaders. I love getting to sit and have conversations about leadership because, as you know, I think that leadership will be the determinant of everything in an organization. Now, leadership won't be responsible for all of the successes, but leadership can definitely be responsible for all of an organization's failures. And so today, I get to be joined by Shauna Vevers as we discuss leadership, helping women grow in their leadership, and ultimately, some best practices. Shauna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, CJ. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes, I am very happy to have you. I think your story and journey is fascinating. You live in one of my favorite countries in the world. And so let's get this started. Tell the people about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do now?
So my name is Shauna Vevers. I am from Canada. I am in Ontario, so central Canada. Grew up on the East Coast, so more of like an Irish feel. And then all of my extended family is now on the West Coast, on BC, in British Columbia. So I technically do two things. I am employed with the military. I've been employed with them for 8 years, but now I am actually running my own business where I'm a women's leadership coach, and that is my primary function.
How'd you end up becoming a women's leadership coach?
Well, that is a very good question. So I joined the military 8 years ago, and I was thrown into leadership. I was the right place, right time, put in my application, got approved. Usually it takes like 6 months to a year. It took me a month and a half. I was employed, did my basic training, did my logistics training because I joined as a logistics financial officer. Um, and then I was put into our normal succession. And that succession is you go into a finance position where you are learning all of the ins and outs with one employee. But due to some policy changes, I actually got posted and moved into a senior mid-level management position where they're like, here's a team of 30 and a $6 million budget. And we need you to clean it up. The financial accountability is not there. And there was toxic culture beforehand. So your predecessor is gone. We need you to reestablish trust with your team. I didn't even know how to log into the accounting system. I've never led a team before. I was like, what am I doing? So on this beautiful, sunny Sunday afternoon, I'm heading into the office and, it's like literally sun is going down on my face and I turn the door and I'm in this dingy office building and you can just hear the silent footsteps, right? Like the click, click, like no one else is there. I go to my office, put my key in the door, hear it click and I push it open. And I see the like sticky note fiasco with all my files everywhere and the dingy blue carpet and the whiteboard that's just scribbled over. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what the hell am I doing here right now? Why am I here? No one else is here. No one knows I'm here, but I was drowning. So when I got posted into this position, I went to my boss's office and he looked me dead in the eye and he's like, Shauna, I need you to clean this up. And so I do what anyone would do. And I'm like, yes, sir, I got it. In my head, I'm like, I don't got it. I don't got it. I don't got it. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, okay, thank you. And then I leave. And so I did what a lot of women do in leadership, which is I'm going to work hard and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to prove that I can do it. So I put my head down and that's exactly what I did. The problem was that my team didn't feel empowered to make decisions. And so my door became revolving because they're like, Sean, I need your input on this. I need this. I need this. Again, I had never led a team before. Then there's a $6 million budget where I'm dealing with senior leadership on that they don't understand finance either because they had not been taught at that point. That's my job to teach them. So all of my days are filled with just random questions and me trying to prove myself that I can do it. So I'm taking every file that comes my way. Like I'm going to clean it up and show that I can have a good say on this file. And then that becomes overwhelming. So I end up leaning in to come in the mornings and then stay at night and then come in on the weekends. And so fast forward to this beautiful Sunday that I was just telling you about. And I'm like, what am I doing here right now? I was hitting burnout because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't sustainable. It had been a few months of this. I wasn't keeping up and I was drowning and I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I was like, something has to change. And I swear the universe heard me that day. I get goosebumps literally right now just telling the story. So the next day I had a friend come to me and he said, Shauna, I was supposed to be on this training to learn how to keep track of my emails. I can't make it. I want you to take my place. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it's downstairs right now. It starts in 5 minutes. So I go to my boss. I'm like, hey, boss, I would like to do this. He's like, yeah, approved. Good. I literally cleared my calendar, went down, took the training. That was the first time I was introduced to the concept that you can build your own workflows to have your systems work for you, not against you. I got obsessed. I went crazy. I started reading books, taking courses, implementing things every week with my team, teaching everybody else about it. And it started getting noticed. And then I started learning how to communicate. And before I know it, a few months later, like 6 to 9 months later, I got advanced promoted because they're like, you're killing it. This is amazing. I was like, wow, I'm so grateful. I'm not perfect, but I'm still learning. And they recognized it. And then I got a call from a friend for special operations. And he's like, there's a finance position. I think you'd be a good fit. You should put in an application. And so I applied, got the job. I show up. They look at me. They say, here's a budget. Here's a team of 30. The finances are a mess and the team morale is low. Fix it. I'm like, well, I've had this problem set before. Like this is becoming a trend. So I use the systems and frameworks I found and I started using those and it started to get noticed. 8 months later, I get put into a bigger position. They're like, here's a team of approximately 200 people, and here is a much bigger budget than you've ever had before. Manage this now. But they're like, we're not going to backfill your other position. You need to do both for like 3 to 4 months. I'm like, holy shit, guys, like this is a lot. Again, I've never managed a team this size, but I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to show that I can do it. But this time I have a framework on how I can set this up. So I do it and my hours are actually manageable and the outputs that are happening are wild. And it gets to the point that I start getting noticed where senior leadership is stopping me after meetings, being like, can you come and teach my team how you're organizing your stuff? Can you start teaching my team how you're doing it and how your team is doing this? And I was so honored. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, I don't know much, but I'll show you, like that mentality. Like, I'll show you what I know. And then I had a week when I was newly in this position where I had 5 of my staff who were women come into my office one by one. It was not scheduled or arranged. And every single one of them broke down crying. Everyone. They're like, this is too much. I can't breathe. I have too much on my plate. I don't know what I'm doing. My team don't respect me. I feel like a fake. I'm an imposter, like all of these things that I felt. And I was like, let me show you my systems. And that's the moment I knew I wanted to work with women. And when I started seeing them get the results that I was getting and they were able to take that breath, I knew I wanted to do it. And the reason I tell the entire backstory is because I do want anyone listening to know that even if you feel like you're a fake or you feel overwhelmed or you're stretched too thin, with the right systems and frameworks, you can go from feeling that way to thriving in your career and being able to love your personal life with those boundaries. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's how I became a women's leadership coach.
That is so good. And what a
Thank
story.
you.
Like you were thrown into the deep end from day one. And it really was kind of sink or swim. And obviously you swam. But kind of mentally and emotionally, what was that transition like for you?
That is a really great question. The transition, I went from, so I'll tell you, I've brought this story up. I didn't think about this for years. And then in my coaching calls this week and talking with other women, this has come up a few times. Um, I used to have this narrative in my head. And the narrative was if they only knew the real you, they wouldn't respect you. They only knew the real you, they wouldn't listen to you. They only knew the real you, they wouldn't like you, they wouldn't talk to you, they would throw you out of the meeting, you wouldn't be invited. And this inner voice ran me. And that was my professional ones, but it was also my personal life. They wouldn't love you, they wouldn't like you. Like your friends and family would think you're a horrible person. I wasn't. I hadn't done anything horrible, but it was just this like insecurity manifesting itself. So to go from that into a feeling of full empowerment, of being able to trust and know deep in my heart that no matter what problem comes my way, I'm willing to embrace discomfort and vulnerability and find the solution, right? To be able to know that I know my boundaries. I know my worth. I know that I am valuable when I bring things to the table. I know that what I have to say is worth listening to because of my experience. That transformation, I don't even have words to describe that inner feeling. Like I show up as a completely different person and I am so aligned that I feel so authentic. And I can tell you right now that it's noticed and people feel that and they want a piece of it because people want that. They want to show up as themselves and be loved. So that
Yeah.
is, yeah,
It's
that,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? To be
yes.
loved and accepted.
Yeah,
It's interesting you bring up this idea of the inner narrative that you were fighting against. A lot of my coaching practice with leaders is centered around the inner work, right? You're a high performer. You have all the skills. You're there, but often what's holding us back is the work we haven't done in here because we're all the product of narratives, stories that have either been told to us or about us. And we're now living those out and spilling it out onto others. What's some of the inner work that you had to do in order to overcome this narrative that was telling you you were not good enough?
that's another really great question. I had to build the self trust in order to build the self confidence. And that looked like many habits every single day. So the first thing I had to do was I actually had to learn how to bring awareness to this narrative because it was running me and I didn't know it, right? It's the story that I didn't have awareness of my thoughts. So I did learn how to meditate. I'm a really big fan of meditation, specifically the Ayurvedic practice. Um, and so I learned how to do that, sit with my thoughts, and train my brain not to stay silent, but to start recognizing when thoughts are popping up. And then I'm able to take control and put my thought logic into somewhere I want it to be. And so by doing that, I was able to bring awareness throughout the day. Then it came down to, okay, well, if that's who I say I am, who do I actually want to be? And I started really getting deliberate on and aware on who do I want to be? What are my own core values? What are the boundaries I need to implement in order to like respect those core values and feel aligned. And then I looked at the boundaries and I looked at little mini things I could do every single day to trust those boundaries. And every time I did those many things, then I felt like I could trust myself more and more. Then I got to a point that I was like, okay, I'm going to authentically show up in friendships. I tested it outside the workplace first. And this was at a time, this specific piece was when I was posted to the West Coast of Canada. And that was when I did like the 6 month stint of the way it's supposed to be before getting thrown into leadership because I had no support system, no family. I had nobody out there. I was flown out, showed up on base on a Saturday, knew nobody. And I just had a room and I would go to their kitchen and eat and then go to work. Like I didn't have a car, I had nothing. So I was building new friendships and I thought, I'm going to show up authentic and see what happens. So I showed up and people liked me. And I remember feeling so surprised. It was St. Patty's Day weekend, 2018, 2017, 2018. And I was sitting in a car and I was like, they like me for me. Like, no, this is awesome. And so that was a big revelation in my head is starting to show up authentically. And then I started showing up authentically in work. And then I started being able to bring those habits from my boundaries into work. And then slowly over time, it built. So I got aware. I did, my core values. I got aware of my thoughts and I instilled boundaries and little mini habits I could do to build trust with myself.
It's really good. Really, really good. I think about, the narratives and the imposter syndrome that a lot of people feel. And coaching women in particular, I hear this come up a lot, this imposter syndrome, I don't know if I belong in the room. What are some other things you've seen in your practice and maybe in your life that are not necessarily unique to women, but are maybe more prevalent with women in leadership?
Hmm. So there's three big challenges that I see over and over again. And this is actually where I've shaped my own practice and my own programs so that people can come in and combat these challenges. One, there's a very specific feeling that there's never enough time in the day to get everything done. And I will also, before I go into it, I will say these can affect men. I'm not saying that they can't. But specifically with women, this is what I see over and over again. That feeling that there's never enough time in a day to get everything done. You're at work and you're thinking about home, especially when you have kids. Or I give the example, like your in-laws are visiting and you're at work and you're thinking, did I change the bed sheets? Like, did I wash them? Do I have enough food? Like everything's spiraling. And then you're at home and you're like, oh, did I send Susan that report? Did I send that email? Oh my gosh, I got to get this thing done. And it's like you can't let go. So it's just you feel really stretched thin. The second problem I see all of the time is navigating social dynamics. And that is where you're second guessing interactions. So I use the example of you send an email, you get to a point, you're like, I'm going to be firm. I'm going to enforce my boundary. I know I need to do this. So you send this email and then somebody calls you a bitch or a boss or something, right? They interpret it like you're too direct. Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. And then you think about that feedback or you heard it through the grapevine and it plays on your mind forever. Or you're in a meeting and you speak up and then you did so good and the one negative thing sticks in your head and you just keep playing it over and over and over and you cannot let it go. You might go back and reread an email at 10 p.m. at night that you wrote just to ensure that you still feel as confident about it as when you sent it at 10 a.m. that morning, you know? And then the last problem I see is really that imposter syndrome when you're in the rooms, especially with high senior leadership and you're having to speak up. And you're like, okay, you want to speak up, you over prepare, you like get all the notes, your team, you got them to give you everything that you could possibly get asked a question on. You're in the room and you're about to speak up, but you get uncomfortable. And then the conversation moves on and you're like, oh, am I even worth being here? Like, should I even be in this room right now? Like, they don't care what I have to say. So those are the three big ones I see all the time.
So how do you help women through those? Because these are so common and so pervasive and can end up working against you in your career if they take over your inner and outer thought life.
hmm So the way I like to do it is I actually treat it like a pyramid. So at the base of that pyramid is your own independent workflow. So I call this master your world time, task, and resource management. So the first thing I always do with everybody I work with, myself included, is set up your core values. Let's figure out what those are. And then we look at what constraints do you have? So what's your terms of reference? What's your job description? And if you don't have one, we make one and you get it signed off by your boss because a lot of the time we're just doing vague jobs and that's really important. And then you look at what boundaries do I need to put in place to respect the core values. That's your absolute base. But then we take it further and we build automated workflows and systems that work for your boundaries, not against you. Um, and then we look at everything you do, like not your team, not people above you, but what are your core outputs? And we optimize that. That's your information management, financial management, equipment management, and people management. So we look at, okay, let's set this up so you are strong. And that's the pure base of that pyramid. Because if you want to take on more and you want to perform higher, but your systems are not clean at a base level, when all that new information hits you, you get really overwhelmed and you crumble. So by having that strong foundation, you can then scale up your scope, you can do your outputs, you can really work on leading your team and be able to thrive in it. And this is the transition from being a doer bee to being a leader. You're setting yourself up to stop being the doer and actually lead your team. The next piece of that pyramid is what I call the art of feminine leadership. And this is where we look at how do you build a strong team? How do you figure out their main purpose? What is their mandate? What's their terms of reference? What are their personal and professional goals? What tasks can you give them that align with those goals? And you really get them to come into the why. You also look at, how do we hold them accountable? How do we have those conversations? And you're really building that culture of continuous improvement. And then we move into how do you be seen and known as a high performer with authentic and confident action? Because now you have a powerhouse on those base two levels, right? You have your processes are clean. You are only doing what you should be doing that you cannot delegate. You are then delegating and empowering your team and really helping them thrive and getting that snowball effect going where they're like going out and really making an impact. Now we need to make sure, how do we align that with strategic objectives? But how are you perceived when you do that? How are you showing up in meetings? How are you presenting yourself? Do you step up and act in your boss's position? What does that look like? Are you confident doing it? And then how do you receive feedback? And so all of this together is how you combat it. And you might notice the base level of the mastering your world, that fixes the time issue. The Art of Feminine Leadership, that talks about social dynamics and how you're communicating with people in your team and across. And then the tip of the pyramid, that is where we go into authentic and confident action, where you can truly overcome your imposter syndrome and feeling like a fake.
It's very holistic.
Yeah.
You're hitting women on every level to help them be the most successful version of themselves. And I realize as I've had failures in my career and as I've started coaching people, for all the school we do, we're really not trained on how to actually function in the workplace, how to be the best version of ourselves. And I wonder, I mean, it would maybe put us out of a job, but if we actually incorporated this into the education systems in both of our countries, how much greater would our leaders be? How much better would our workers be? Just how much better would we be as a society?
Honestly, like, I think we would be way better off. I always talk about the transition from being an individual contributor to being a leader. It's not intuitive and people don't talk about it. So, what I see all the time is people get promoted based on their individual skills, right? You're like, you're a great data analyst. We're going to promote you into being responsible for all of the tech department. Okay, great. You move up. You've never led before. Ha, I've done this. You've never led before. What do? You are uncomfortable. You're like, I want to do a good job, but your brain is like, hold up a second. You've never done this. Discomfort shows up, vulnerability shows up. You get that vulnerability hangover. What's your natural instinct? To go and do something you're comfortable with. What are you comfortable with? The data analyst job. So you say to your team, I can help you. Give me some tasks. Give me some. I can do it. And then next thing you know, you're stuck in the weeds. You have all these files and you are not leading and you are not in the strategic room because you're not able to let go and focus where you need to focus on. I think if that was in the education system to learn the difference between being an individual contributor versus leadership and what those two look like, that would be a game changer.
Absolutely. I'm a professor in an honors college at a school here in the northeastern part of the United States. And all of my students are CS majors, engineering majors, all those sorts of things. And they're really good with computers and they're really smart at things that I cannot figure out, but they can't look you in the eye and talk to you. And I'm like, you don't understand the ways in which you're not developing these soft skills are
Mm.
crippling your future success because you
Mm-hmm.
might get the first promotion because you're really good at the computers. But the moment people figure out you can't lead, you can't talk, you can't manage, you can't be in the room, you've put a ceiling on yourself. And I know how much you guys want to be high achievers. So I need you to close the computer and look at me and let's have a conversation. It works for like
Yes.
20% of them. The other 80% are just like, nah, I'm
They're
not
like,
doing that.
"No, we're good." Well, and to be fair, like, there are some people, and I'm like, you know what? If you want to be an individual contributor, no judgment. My husband, he does not want to lead. He is like, I'm good. I just want to be the best guy at this one job that I can be. I'm like, that's awesome. You know, he got his university degree. He could go and lead people based on his qualifications, his experience, and everything. And he's like, I just really like being the dude that's really good at this job. Whereas for me, I like to go and really empower people. So I'm like, it's all good if people don't want to be, as I'm sure, you know, your students who are like, nope, I'm good. Like they might end up being those really smart tech people. But for the people who do want to go into leadership and imagine themselves moving up, the soft skills are very, very important because if you don't understand what you're doing, you can inadvertently cause a lot of toxic culture in your organization, especially as you move up to higher levels. You know, you have micromanagement, you have people who communicate differently than you, perceiving you differently, and then they emulate what you're doing because they think that is good leadership because you're their first role model, and then it keeps spiraling, right? It's just like it just keeps going out. Like you impact everybody you see and talk to. So it's important for people to learn and understand and have awareness that it's not intuitive before they get overwhelmed.
Yeah. Man, that first job out of university is so formative because if you get a bad leader in that role, this is what you're learning. Oh, this is how you lead in this toxic way, in this passive aggressive way, in this aggressive way, in some situations I've seen. And there can end up being a massive trail of bodies on the road to your maturation, all because that first spot formed you in all of the wrong ways.
Absolutely. Like, I see this all the time in my workplace. Like, so I'll talk about it from a woman's point of view, but this applies to both men and women. Like, what you said applies to everybody. What I see and what I experienced was I moved into that leadership role and I had only worked for a man, and they were very directive because that's what they were brought up with. And it's not bad. He got amazing results for it. That was his style. But I thought that was the definition of good leadership. So what did I do? I tried to emulate direct, masculine, very like, you will do this. I need to have all the answers. Like, you will tell me this by this day. I thought I was being a good leader. What I was really doing is making my team feel insecure, disempowered, like they didn't have any authority. They need to come to me for everything. It ended up being micromanaging and out of alignment. And then eventually I did tweak it a little bit, but I still kept a piece of that for way too many years. And I was scared to show my emotions at work until one day. So I have a big trigger is when somebody disrespects my team member or a team member of mine. My mama bear instincts come out and I'm like, no. And so normally I hide a lot of my emotions, or I used to. I used to hide them. And then one of my staff came to me and they said, I need to tell you about an incident. Somebody was talking very negatively about one of our team members, and this team member was very hardworking and was really intelligent, and the other person didn't know what was happening. And I blew up. I was reactive. I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, that's such shit. And I got really upset. And we were behind closed doors, just the two of us. And then after I calmed down, after a couple minutes, I was like, I am so sorry. And he's like, don't apologize. He's like, we know that you're hiding something. And now he's like, I just clued in that you're hiding your emotions. And there was a reason that our trust wasn't able to go deep. He's like, you need to show your emotions because it shows that you care. And so it was that moment that I was like, holy shit, I've been keeping this like box inside of me again. Like, I need to let it go. It was like a repeating thing for me where I would just hide those emotions. And so I started showing and expressing that I was frustrated. I would do it in a professional way, but I would name the emotion I'm feeling. Or if I was in a meeting and something triggered me, I would say, like, that has upset me. I feel angry about this. I just need a minute to gather my thoughts. And I would own it. And then they could see that I cared. And I didn't sit there trying to hide it and make something up. And they're like, this isn't authentic. you know? So yeah.
To tell me if I'm wrong here, from the perspective of a woman, at trying to manage your emotions, can it feel like a double-edged sword at times? Because there are men who, if you display emotion, I'm like, oh, you see, here goes a woman again with her emotions. So how do you like walk that line?
There's actually hand in hand with this journey with the masculine, feminine leadership styles. I had to start leading in an authentic way to me. And I had to start owning the fact that I felt emotions, because when I hid them, people could sense the inauthenticity in me. And then I realized that even though the guys around me, because I worked with like 98% men, even though they didn't show their emotions the same way I did, there are biases and there are stories and like programming we have about men and women. And so their perception of me, I had to get aware of those, and then I had to own it. And I had to communicate in a way that I was like, look, I'm going to show my emotions. And I would have to like communicate it. I'm thinking out loud here, but I would communicate I was upset, but because I owned it, it's like they respected it more. If I tried to hide it, it made them like turn a shoulder against me or be like, what? You know what I mean? But if I'm like, no, like that pissed me the hell off. Like, what's going on? Or if I just addressed it or I like named that I was feeling something and I wanted to come back to it, but I handled it professionally and I didn't let it spiral. I just named it, I owned it, and then we moved on with the conversation. And that always has been respected in every interaction I've had. And I've worked with a lot of men. So,
It's good.
yeah.
What does healthy feminine leadership look like?
I think that every woman has their own balance of masculine and feminine energies and within us. Now, you can call that whatever you want, like yin and yang. There's a whole bunch of names for it. I like the words masculine and feminine energy, and we all have a different makeup. And I think that that makeup comes out in our core values. And so I think that if you as a person write out and understand what you want at the core of your being, maybe you want to do, for me, I will name like, I have stress outlets. So let's say I like to cook and I love to dance and I love to knit and I love to play the piano. Those are feminine things, in my opinion, that I like to do. Now, at work, when I need to be directive and really just, be in that game mode, the work mode, I consider that to be more of a masculine energy. So when I make my core values and I look at what I want my life to look like, and then I bring those core values into leadership and I make sure that my boundaries and workflows are based on those core values, then I can respect my masculine and feminine energy flows while at work. I can feel because it's holistic. It's not like you can just go into work and switch one off and one on. It's all about who are you as a whole being. So at home, my husband knows because we've talked about this extensively. I go into feminine at home. I am like, I'll cook dinner, but what do you want? I don't want to make decisions. I just want to dance around and be with my kid, like be with my little guy. Like that's fine. And then at work, we call it work mode and home mode sometimes. I go into work and I'm like, let's go. Time to like ramp it up, decisions. But if I'm in masculine mode too much, or if I bring that masculine or work mode home, I feel out of balance holistically. So then I don't show up as my most authentic self at work because I haven't respected my feminine balance. But that ratio of masculine to feminine is different for everybody. So I always recommend the core values exercise so that they can figure out what their own balance is and their own ratio. I don't know if that answers the question, but
No, that's good.
yeah.
That's good. Um, let me see. I have a question about empathy and the role of
Okay.
empathy in leadership, because I'm seeing a trend of leaders who are fighting back against the need for empathetic leadership, which I think just off base. Where do you sit, especially because I think women are naturally more empathetic than men? Where do you see the role of empathy in your leadership style?
Empathy. So I am a very empathetic person, and I consider empathy of being able to imagine what it feels like to be that other person. It's almost like the theory of mind approach. Like you understand that there's other people being affected by your actions, but when somebody's going through something with empathy, you're able to feel it. If somebody's sad, like I can feel sad because I empathize with their situation. For me, I tend to lean more empathetic than not, but sometimes I need to make sure that I'm able to recognize I'm feeling empathetic, just like parenting. Like you can feel empathetic and be like, my child is struggling, but my job here is to make it safe. And you might feel sad or angry, but my job is to make it safe. And so the same thing can happen in leadership. I can feel empathetic with you that maybe you're not liking the feedback that you're getting right now. For example, maybe you didn't meet the standards that you were supposed to meet. I'm here to tell you that. I think some people can get caught in that empathy moment where they don't want to tell somebody because they don't want to ruin their day. But you need to then look at what's your job as a leader and still show up and have those hard conversations, even though you're feeling empathetic towards that person and understand that it's for the greater good. And that's a balancing act that takes practice. I think people can't be perfect at that ever, but it's about being willing to be vulnerable. And I think the feeling of empathy brings vulnerability in a person. And I think vulnerability is such an underrated leadership trait.
Yeah, I think when you, as a leader, first of all, when you display healthy empathy, it allows you to communicate the hard thing in as like a velvet hammer. So the blow's coming down, but I'm able to wrap it in language and in such a way that you feel seen, known, and loved. And when I display vulnerability in my leadership, what you are now getting is, oh, there's a person in front of me. This isn't a robot. This isn't just another cog in the machine. I can recognize that you're a person just like I am going through what I'm going through. Um, so as we bring this to a close, I'm curious if you are, let's say I'm a woman watching this right now and I'm trying to figure out, Shauna, what are three things I can do right now to improve my leadership? What would you say?
Say, figure out what your core values are. So take a piece of paper or a note in your phone, write down 100 things that are important to you. And then you want to group those things, and the names of those groups are now your core values. I recommend having 10 or less to keep it concise, but definitely get awareness of the core values. The next piece I would say is you want to get a task management system that works for you and not against you, and make it as automated as possible. I do share this with everyone in my community. You can grab mine. I have it in my Her Management Edge toolkit I share for free. It's a huge bank of resources I give out to everyone in my community. Grab it from my Instagram, the link in my bio. I can give you the link, CJ, for your show notes.
Yeah.
And then that can be, you can use that as a model, but you want a system that works for you with those core values. And then the third thing is, I have to pick three. That's so hard. Those are my top two. The third thing is practice embracing vulnerability every single day. Add it to your task list. I have this on my phone, and I have it do to get out of your comfort zone, do something that makes you uncomfortable. And every single day, I make myself check that off. And that builds trust with yourself that you're willing to show up.
Yeah. Core values, task management system, embrace vulnerability. 100 things?
100 things you
How
need to do.
how
Yeah.
that sounds really hard.
No, do it. It's amazing. So you don't have to do it all at once. People get kind of nervous when they start. I make every client do this. Okay. Take a notebook, right? Whatever. And then every day add 5. What's important to you? Like spending time with family. You want to make sure, for me, spending time with family, going to the gym, having time to do my stress outlets. But I also want to have time to work. I want to make sure that I'm working, but I also want to make sure I'm picking up my little guy from daycare. So like these things quickly add up and it becomes a daily practice. But once you get to 100, then you can start grouping them. Those groups, you name it, that's your core value. And you can take it one step further. Once you have your groups, you can make a pie chart. You can either do this from grouping like how many is under each category and use like Excel or Google Sheets if you want to like make the pie chart, and it'll pop you out an image of the percentages of each one in your life. You might be surprised. Some people it's like 60% work and some people it's 20% work. And they realize they're like, I'm spending 80% of my time doing work, but it's only a 20% value. Like now I need to figure out the realignment. But yeah, 100, you got to start there because you need the data, but give yourself a week.
Is it cheating if I put like my wife and then list each of my kids? So now, boom, I've got 4. Or do I just have to put family?
Family, because I want it to be as diverse as possible. My husband asked me this the other day because we did one similar for him, but for purpose. But he's like, well, I like British Columbia. So what if I wrote like Vancouver Island, Vancouver, Chilliwack? I'm like, babe, just list geographical location close to family. Like,
Yeah, but
you're
then
cheating.
I gotta find 99 other things. No,
I know,
I'm gonna try this.
Do it. And I want to know how it goes. Like, DM me. We can chat about it because it gives you that picture, especially with the pie chart. You have no choice but to face it. You're like, this gives it to you in your face in a way. You could take that and pin it on your office, in your cubicle. You can put that on your mirror and you can look at it every day and say, okay, what decisions am I making today to feel in alignment with this? Because it's all about what you want. This core values exercise is not about what anyone else wants but you.
That's good. That is a good, hard challenge that I'm going to take on. And if you're watching this or listening to it, I hope you take this on too. Shauna, tell the people, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Shauna Vevers, ShaunaVevers. And then I have a website, managementedge.com. And those are the main 2 places. Come say hi. If you do this exercise, tag CJ and I. We want to see it. We want to, congratulate you and celebrate you for taking the first step towards living in alignment.
And are you taking on any clients right now or doing any programs that people might want to sign up for?
So I am. I do have a group program that is amazing. I will just say it. I am tooting my own horn there. I was so vulnerable when I made this program. We've got a few lovely ladies in there, and the community aspect is awesome. So I actually bring clients through the 3 pyramid steps. It's all learn at your own pace. And then every Monday we come together for a group call and we do a 20-minute teach on a topic that we're wanting to learn about. I'll, provide a training session, and then we do live Q&A. So that way everybody can talk about what's going on at work, what's happening in life, where they need support, etc. And so, yes, I am taking clients on. You can come over, see me on Instagram. You can check out my website. It has the details in there. I have a free toolkit, like I mentioned earlier in the call, where you can go on and get a whole bank of resources that I share with everybody. And they're resources I wish I had way earlier in my career. So those are the main two right now. Free bank of resources. And then if you want to take it one step further and get that support group and really get help instilling all of these frameworks and processes, come say hi, DM me. I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Shauna, thank you for joining me on this episode of Tell Me More. And thank you for watching or listening, however it is you're taking this in. I want you to go ahead and drop something in the comments that you picked up from today's episode, because Shauna dropped quite a few gems and left us with a really good challenge. And I'll see you next time as I ask you to tell me more.